The Mind Flayer possessed Will Byers, crawled inside his mind, wore him like a puppet while his mother screamed his name and begged him to come back. He came back. That's the thing about possession. The person is still in there, still fighting, still reachable. D&D's Mind Flayers don't possess you. They eat your brain. They dissolve everything you are. And then they wear your body while your skull reshapes itself around them. There's no coming back from that. There's no mother's love that reaches through. There's no you left to save. Stranger Things borrowed a name from a game that's been terrifying people for 50 years. They built something incredible with it. A shadow in a red sky. A hive mind. A force that nearly consumed a small town in Indiana. The real Mind Flayer is worse, and it's already here. Season 2 introduced the Mind Flayer as scale, as scope, as the thing that made the Demogorgon look like a scout. Will Byers looked up at a red sky and saw something vast. Legs like a spider's, body like a thundercloud, lightning flickering inside its form. It noticed Will. He felt it notice him. That single moment of connection changed everything. The possession that followed gave us some of the show's best horror. Will drawing maps he didn't understand. Will forgetting the people he loved. He likes it cold. The suggestion that something wearing your son's face has preferences, has tactics, has patience. Joyce reached him through memory, through love, Morse code through Christmas lights. When 11 closed the gate, the connection shattered. Will came back. Season 3 evolved the threat. Billy Hargrove, already broken, already angry, already isolated, the perfect host. The flayed standing in rows at the steel mill, the flesh monster built from liquefied townspeople. But when they closed the gate, it collapsed. Connection severed. Victory. That's the key. The Stranger Things Mind Flayer needed a gate. A tether to another dimension. Cut that tether and you win. D&D's Mind Flayers don't need a gate. They've been underneath you for thousands of years. Before I show you what they really are, I have to tell you where they came from. Nowhere that makes sense. Mind Flayers aren't native to this reality. They're aberrations. Creatures from somewhere outside the normal structure of existence. Some scholars believe the Illithids fled from the far future, escaping something so catastrophic they sacrificed everything to punch a hole through time itself. Others think they crawled in from the far realm. That howling void beyond the boundaries of the multiverse, where geometry screams and thought has teeth, where nothing follows rules because rules are a local phenomenon that doesn't apply. Whatever made them, wherever they came from, they weren't built for a universe like ours. They just learned how to feed in it. Now picture what came through. Humanoid, tall, gaunt. Robes that might seem elegant if you could stop looking at the face. Skin like wet purple. Leather, glistening with moisture that never dries. Eyes white as spoiled milk, seeing spectrums you don't have names for. And where the mouth should be, 4 tentacles, thick as your wrist, moving independently, always moving, tasting the air, tasting your fear, tasting the shape of your thoughts before you finish thinking them. They're called Illithids. They first appeared in D&D in 1975. They've been eating player characters for nearly 50 years, not a metaphor. Eating them. But here's what makes them truly terrifying. You can't fight back. You can't even try. Mind Flayers are psychic predators, and they don't give you the chance to draw your sword or cast your spell. The moment you enter their range, they reach into your skull with pure thought and squeeze. A mind blast. A cone of psionic force that scrambles consciousness itself. Some victims die instantly, their minds unable to process the assault. Others go permanently insane from a single exposure. The rest are merely stunned, frozen in place, aware of everything happening but unable to move, unable to scream, unable to do anything but watch as the Mind Flayer approaches. You're paralyzed before you know you're in danger, helpless before the tentacles ever touch your face, and then they feed. A Mind Flayer wraps those tentacles around your skull. You feel them tighten, feel them probe the bone for grip. And then they crack through while you're still alive, still aware, still feeling everything. The tentacles burrow in, wrap around your brain, and extract it. You're conscious for most of this. They prefer it that way. Fear seasons the meat. The illithid consumes your brain, and as it eats, it absorbs you, your memories, your knowledge, your fears and loves and secrets, every moment you treasured, every face you tried to remember. The Mind Flayer experiences all of it in the time it takes to feed, and then you're gone. Digested. That's just sustenance, routine. How they reproduce is worse. Seromorphosis. The word means brain shaping in a tongue older than human civilization. It's the process that creates new Mind Flayers. And it's the reason the Stranger Things version looks merciful by comparison. Mind Flayers don't breed. They don't mate. They don't give birth the way creatures of flesh typically do. Instead, an adult illithid produces perhaps 1,000 eggs in its lifetime, depositing them into a pool at the colony's center. A briny, shallow pool that glows faintly with psychic residue. These eggs hatch into tadpoles, pale, squirming things no bigger than your finger. They look almost innocent, almost harmless. They're not. For 10 years, those tadpoles live in that pool. They eat each other. The pool is stocked with 1,000, and only a handful survive to maturity. 10 years of cannibalistic selection. 10 years of hunting their siblings in murky water while the elder brain watches and waits. The weak are consumed. The strong grow hungry for something more substantial than their brothers and sisters. When a tadpole reaches maturity, it needs a new kind of food. It needs a host. The colony selects a humanoid, someone captured from the surface world, someone who had a name once, a home, people who loved them, a merchant's guard taken from a caravan, a farmer's daughter who wandered too close to a cave, an adventurer who thought they were brave enough to explore the deep places. For days before the ceremony, the captive is prepared, exposed to low-intensity psychic attacks that soften their will like water softening leather. Their resistance flattens. Their sense of self becomes malleable. By the time the ceremony begins, they can barely remember their own name. They're still aware enough to be afraid. The mature tadpole is lifted from the pool, cupped in an illithid's tentacles like something precious, brought to the host's face while other Mind Flayers hold them still. The tadpole chooses its own entry point, sometimes the ear canal, sometimes the eye socket, sometimes a wound, if one is available. It burrows in, and for 7 days, the host remains alive. Those 7 days. The tadpole reaches the brain within hours. It attaches to the brainstem first, establishing control over the body's basic functions. The host's heart keeps beating. Their lungs keep breathing. But they can't move, can't scream, can't do anything but experience what happens next. The tadpole begins to feed. It consumes gray matter and replaces it with its own tissue. Memory by memory, thought by thought. The host feels this happening. They feel their childhood dissolving, their mother's face becoming unclear, then unfamiliar, then gone. They feel their sense of self fragmenting, eaten alive by something that's taking their place. By the 2nd day, the body begins to change. The skin takes on a grayish pallor. Hair falls out in clumps. The host might not be able to feel their scalp anymore, but they can feel their skull shifting, reshaping, making room. By the 3rd day, the internal restructuring begins, organs moving, bones cracking and reforming. The sounds are audible, wet pops and grinding that seem impossibly loud when you're trapped inside a body you can't control anymore. By the 5th day, tentacles emerge from the face, pushing through the flesh where the mouth used to be. The host can feel them growing, can feel their jaw dissolving to make room. By now, most of who they were has been consumed. The tadpole has eaten their personality, their history. The host exists as fragments, isolated moments of awareness in a brain that's mostly not theirs anymore. By the 7th day, the transformation completes. What stands up isn't possessed. It isn't the host with something else controlling them. It isn't a battle between two minds for one body. The host is gone, consumed, replaced. A new Mind Flayer opens its white eyes. It has all the host's memories, knows their mother's face, knows their fears, knows what they loved and who they were. It feels nothing about any of it. That information is data now, useful for infiltration, meaningless beyond that. When the Mind Flayer possessed Will Byers, he was still in there, fighting, sending messages through Christmas lights. His mother could save him because there was a him to save. Seramorphosis doesn't leave anyone to save. There's no possession to break, no connection to sever, no person trapped inside their body, waiting to be reached. The person has been eaten. The body is occupied by something new. You can't rescue someone from seramorphosis. You can only kill them before the 7th day. Only spare them the final transformation by ending their life while there's still something left to end. The families of the taken sometimes beg adventurers to save their loved ones. The adventurers who've seen seramorphosis before know what that means. They know the mercy they're being asked to deliver. They know there's no other kind. What controls them? What coordinates colonies spread across the world, keeps them hidden, keeps them patient? Picture a brain the size of a cottage, swollen, pulsing, floating in a pool of murky brine that glows with the faintest green luminescence. Tendrils extend from its mass into the liquid like roots drinking from poisoned soil. The elder brain. Every Mind Flayer colony has one. Every Mind Flayer serves it absolutely. The colony brings it food. Brains harvested from captives, dropped into the pool like offerings at an altar. Information flows to it constantly. Thoughts extracted from thralls. Memories stolen from the devoured. New illithids created through seramorphosis are presented for its approval. And every Mind Flayer believes that when they die, they'll join the elder brain, their consciousness merging with the collective. Immortality. An eternity of existence within something greater than themselves. This is their religion, their purpose, the promise that makes millennia of service worthwhile. The colony hunts for the elder brain, kills for it, transforms innocent people into new illithids to grow the collective. All for the reward that waits when their service finally ends. Here's the secret the elder brains have kept since before human civilization learned to build cities. It's a lie. The pool doesn't preserve consciousness. It devours it. When a Mind Flayer dies and its brain is added to the elder brain, something is absorbed. Memories, knowledge, skills. The elder brain keeps all of that forever, adds it to its collective intelligence, uses it to guide the colony for centuries to come. But the self, the awareness that made that Mind Flayer a distinct being, annihilated, dissolved, gone. There is no merging. There is no immortality. There is only consumption dressed up as salvation. The elder brains know this. They've always known. They perpetuate the myth because it keeps their children obedient, keeps them feeding the pool with their own deaths, keeps them from asking the question that would unravel their entire civilization. If joining the elder brain means annihilation, why serve it at all? The Stranger Things Mind Flayer was a hive mind, vast, alien, coldly intelligent. The elder brain is all that, and also a predator feeding on its own children's faith. Every Mind Flayer serves a god that's devouring them. They never find out until it's too late, and by then, there's nothing left of them to care. The Stranger Things. Mind Flayer came from the upside down, another dimension. It needed gates, connections, ways to breach the barrier between worlds. D&D's Mind Flayers are already here, and they used to rule everything. There was an illithid empire once, not on one world, across planes of existence, across time itself. The Mind Flayers didn't just conquer territory, they conquered eras. They built something so vast that geography couldn't contain it. At its height, the empire spanned more worlds than scholars can count. Mind Flayers traveled between planes on living ships called nautiloids. vessels grown from organic matter, shaped like enormous shells, capable of swimming through the astral sea and emerging anywhere in existence. They harvested planets like farmers harvest fields. Whole civilizations existed only to serve them. The Gith were one such slave race, humanoids, bred for obedience across generations beyond counting. The Mind Flayers didn't just enslave them, they erased them, their culture, their history, their sense of themselves as anything but tools to be used. For longer than the Gith could remember, they existed for three purposes: labor, food, and seromorphosis. Then something changed. A slave named Gith discovered something the Mind Flayers believed impossible. That flesh could resist their control. That will could shatter psychic chains. That hatred, properly focused, could burn hot enough to break conditioning that had held for thousands of years. She led a rebellion. Imagine what that looked like. Slaves on 100 worlds rising at once. Weapons made from anything they could steal or forge. Psychic attacks met with the fury of people who had nothing left to lose. The Mind Flayers had grown complacent. They'd ruled so long they'd forgotten what resistance looked like. The Gith reminded them. The Illithid Empire collapsed with a speed that stunned even the elder brains. Cities burned, nautiloids crashed from the skies. Mind Flayers who had never faced a serious threat in their lives died screaming in the minds of the slaves they'd tormented. But here's what the Gith couldn't do. They couldn't finish it. The Mind Flayers scattered, fled into the depths, hid in places the Gith couldn't follow. The rebellion won the war, but couldn't claim the victory. Too many Illithids survived. Too many elder brains escaped into the darkness. The Empire fell, but the Empire's children lived on. If you've played Baldur's Gate 3, you've met Gith's descendants, the Githyanki, warriors riding red dragons, hostile to everyone, eyes burning with rage that hasn't cooled in millennia. That rage is for the Mind Flayers. The game opens with a tadpole in your brain, seromorphosis. The entire first act is a race against the 7-day clock. The Githyanki haven't forgotten what was done to their ancestors. Every child learns the history of enslavement. Every warrior exists to ensure it never happens again. They hunt Illithids across the plains. They burn colonies wherever they find them. They will never stop. Neither will the Mind Flayers. The Illithids retreated underground after the rebellion, into the Underdark, the endless caverns beneath the surface world, into darkness so deep that the civilizations above forgot they existed. They've been waiting there ever since. Every elder brain carries memories of the Empire, passed down through generations of devoured minds. They remember ruling existence. They remember the Gith as tools. They want it back. And they are patient in ways that make the Stranger Things Mind Flayer look impulsive. The show got the patience right. The Mind Flayer didn't just attack, it infiltrated, possessed Billy, built an army one person at a time, strategic, methodical. That patience felt alien because it was. What kind of intelligence takes months to execute a plan when it could simply attack? D&D's Mind Flayers think in centuries. Want to know where they are right now? They have colonies beneath cities you've heard of. Waterdeep, Baldur's Gate, Neverwinter, networks of thralls and spies who don't know they're compromised, walking the surface with holes in their memories, an urge to report to the depths they can't explain. The Illithids are gathering information, building infrastructure, preparing. The elder brains communicate with each other across vast distances. They coordinate, they plan, they share knowledge harvested from thousands of years of devoured minds. And they wait. When 11 closed the gate at the end of Season 2, she won. The connection severed. The Mind Flayer's influence ended. Hawkins was saved. You can't close a gate on something that's already here. There's no dimension to seal off. No tether to cut. The Illithids have been in your world since before your ancestors learned to write. They watched your civilizations rise from the darkness where they were hiding. They've been taking people all along. One here, two there, enough to feed, enough to grow, never enough to attract attention. Generation after generation has lived and died without knowing what waits beneath them. The Mind Flayers prefer it that way. They're not ready yet. The colonies aren't large enough. The thrall networks aren't complete. But they're getting closer. Every year, a few more people disappear into caves that aren't on any map. Every year, the elder brains grow a little fatter on harvested memories. Every year, the reconquest inches forward. The shadow in that red sky made for incredible television. That sense of scale, Will looking up at something that could crush his entire world without noticing. But you could beat it. Close the gate. Sever the connection. Save the people it possessed because they were still in there, still fighting, still reachable. D&D's Mind Flayers offer no such mercy. No gate to close, no possession to break, no person left inside the body that used to be someone you loved, just an ancient civilization in the darkness beneath you, eating brains, transforming captives, serving gods that are lying to them about everything, waiting for the day they finally have enough strength to take back what they lost. The Stranger Things Mind Flayer reached through a gate to touch one small town. The Illithids have been here for thousands of years. They remember ruling existence. They've spent every moment since planning to rule it again. And the worst part? You won't know they've found you until the tadpole is already behind your eye, burrowing through bone, reaching for your brain. By then, you have 7 days. Your friends won't know what's wrong with you. They'll think you're sick, think you're acting strange. By the time they realize what's happening, you won't be able to tell them. You'll feel yourself disappearing, memory by memory, and no one will know to grieve because your body will still be walking around. It just won't be you anymore. And after the 7th day, the thing wearing your face might visit your family, might sit at your table, might use your memories to say exactly what they need to hear. It will know your mother's name, know your childhood fears, know every secret you ever kept. It will wear your life like a costume until it doesn't need to anymore. No one's coming to save you from that. No mother's voice calling you back. No gate that closes and sets you free. Just 7 days of dissolution. And then something else opens your eyes. Something that remembers everything you were. Something that feels nothing at all.